What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk here, back with another video, and you guys are reading the title and probably thinking, what is this guy talking about? But I assure you that this is not clickbait, and this is definitely an opinion that's been tossed around by more than one, more than two, more than five reporters who have notable sources, that the Toronto Maple Leafs have been taking calls on their unrestricted free agents just to see what people would be offering for them. And of course, the biggest name that could move for the Toronto Maple Leafs would be Tyson Barrie. Now, this video isn't to say that the Leafs would be sellers. They're definitely not. This is a team that still wants to try to go for the playoffs. At the time I'm recording this, they're currently in a playoff position. And it's not going to get any easier for the Leafs, obviously. But the biggest thing that anybody wants to talk about this year is that Kyle Dubis did not address the blue line. And for that, I have to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. Now, could he make more moves to address the blue line? Of course he could. Could he have maybe found a better fit for the blue line? Of course he could. But I need to remind people at the beginning of this video, before commenting, please listen to this. Other GMs have to pick up the phone in order to make a trade. Other GMs have to be willing to move a defenseman, okay? It's not easy where teams just call up and go, that's the guy I want, here's what I'm giving you, trade done. It's not that magical. It's not that easy, and it doesn't happen that way, okay? There's a lot of people suggesting, well, how come we don't have this guy? How come we didn't trade this guy? How come we don't have... If you've noticed, no team has acquired the defenseman that you guys have been looking for because the teams are not willing to give him up. I hear the biggest name everybody says is, well, Josh Manson. Hell, I agree with you guys. I love Josh Manson. I've said multiple times on this channel, the Leafs should go after him. But guess what? Anaheim just said that unless they get a king's ransom, even then they're not considering moving Josh Manson. They do not want to move that guy. So scratch that off the list. Josh Manson is not getting traded because Anaheim wants to have him as part of the solution in rebuilding. He's on a good contract. He's relatively young. He's physical. He fights. He can put up points, and he's great in his own zone. There's not a lot of those guys. They don't grow on trees, and teams are not willing to move those guys. I hear a lot of people say, well, let's go get Matt Dumba. Guys, please, if you listen to anything in this video, Matt Dumba is not good defensively. People look at him throwing hits every once in a while. If he's not hitting, and if he's not injured, by the way, Matt Dumba's injured like every year, multiple times. If he's not injured, he's not hitting, he's not doing anything. He puts up some points here and there. He's had a really, really bad offensive season. Like, he's regressing. Like, Tyson Barrie's having a better offensive season if you look at the numbers. And, like, they're essentially the same player, except Tyson Barrie's probably better than him this year. Probably even in his own zone. And people are complaining about Tyson Barrie. So Matt Dumba, that's not fixing the solution either. So after that, who do you have? There's some guys that want Brendan Dillon. That would be a small acquisition cost. It would make a bunch of sense for the Leafs to consider him as well. So maybe that's an option. But you also have to look at the fact that right now teams are looking for a lot for defensive defensemen because there's lots of teams out there looking for those type of guys. People keep mentioning Savard on Columbus. Columbus is going on a run. They're not trading Savard either. I can't see a reason at all that they would trade him. So I had to start off this video by telling you guys it's not that easy. You don't just call somebody and the trade happens. It doesn't work that way. And this whole trade Nylander, oh, it'll get you this. Okay, again, why are we on this path again? He's literally probably on the best contract the Leafs have right now. Like, legitimately. Him and Matthews Matthews got paid a lot, but he's playing lights out offensively, and he's showing that he has a two-way game. William Nylander is already passing career high totals, and he's probably going to have 70-plus points and over 30 goals this year, and you want to trade him when we have all these injuries. It makes sense to you? No, it makes zero sense. So let's look at the move that everybody hated. And we're going to talk about why the Leafs could trade Tyson Barrie to soften acquisition costs, in the words of my friend Downtown Sports, a.k.a. Downtown Stephen Brown. Make sure to go check out his channel. You guys always know where to find him. It's on my channel as well. But Tyson Barrie and Kerfoot for Nazem Kadri. That was the main pieces of the deal. Of course, there was little things here and there. But this is what I need to explain to people. That move made a ton of sense. People are like, well, why didn't they make the Calgary trade? TJ Brody basically said that he was not willing to come to the Leafs after the first trade was nixed. So he did not want to come to Toronto, and Nazem Kadri said he wasn't going to go to Calgary. So forget that trade. That trade was off the table. That trade was not happening. So the next best move that they could get was getting a replacement for Kadri, as well as getting a guy who can put up 50 or 60 points for you. Maybe not the best defensively, but he's also coming at half retained. So the Leafs are only paying him $2.5 million on the cap for a guy that's on the open market with these numbers is getting $8 million easily. We're paying him $2.5 million. And then you get Kerfoot on top of that. Last season in 78 games played for Colorado, Tyson Barrie had 59 points. Last year in Colorado, Kerfoot, 78 games played, 42 points. Last year for Toronto, 73 games played for Kadri, 44 points. So Kerfoot maybe not as physical, but he's faster, he can put up points, and he's better suited as a third-line center. Nazem Kadri is a second-line center, but he's playing in Toronto where there's Tavares and Matthews there. Tell me, are you playing Nazem Kadri more than Matthews or Tavares? No. Are you moving him to the wing? It doesn't work. No. So you take an asset that you have that makes sense, and you move him for something that you need, which is defenseman, and you also get a replacement for him who's better suited as a third-line center. I do not know why people are not seeing this. That trade was an absolute home run for the Leafs, and Mike Babcock ruined it. If you don't believe it, please just go back and watch old highlights and go and listen to some people when they talk about how Mike Babcock tried to change Tyson Barrie from an offensive defenseman to a defensive defenseman. And I tried to explain this to somebody the other day. Take into account, let's say Tyson Barrie has a no leash. Babcock lets him run wild and free in the first, 34 games or whatever when he was coaching the Leafs this year, okay? Also, let's keep in mind Babcock was not playing Jason Spezza. He wasn't playing the forwards big minutes, the big top four guys like Nylander, Tavares, Matthews, Marner. He wasn't playing them as much as Keefe does. And he also was playing Anderson and Hutchinson in bad situations. The back-to-backs, he was stubborn. He said, this guy first, this guy second. So let's just say, with all the screw-ups that Babcock did, the Leafs have an extra 6 to 8 points on their point total for the season, right? That separates them a little bit more from teams like Florida. So instead of it being a 2-point or a 4-point race, it turns into an 8 or a 10 to 12-point race, which is a little bit harder to close that gap, especially since the Leafs are playing better under Sheldon Keefe. And now they have a better backup goaltender. So people don't understand that, sure, if you look at this, and Nazem Kadri was my favorite player. If you followed this channel, Nazem Kadri was my absolute favorite player, no doubt. But if you look at everything put into this whole trade and the Babcock and everything, the Leafs would be in a much better position right now. And you wouldn't even be talking about this. Under Keefe, Barrie has played way better, okay? And right now he has 33 points in 60 games. In the next 22 games, knock on wood that he stays healthy, you have to assume he's getting to the 40, 45 point range, right? You'd hope. And that's pretty good considering he's also been playing a lot of minutes and his defensive play is not very good, but if you look at the advanced numbers, it hasn't been terrible. Okay? So let's say the Leafs decide to move on from him. Let's say the Leafs at the deadline use him to soften the acquisition cost. And by that I mean you take Tyson Barrie, you pair him with somebody else, and you get a guy that's better suited on the Leafs blue line. So instead of having Tyson Barrie offensive-minded, you get somebody else defensive-minded. And for the people that think Tyson Barrie has no value, you're kidding yourself. You've looked at guys get traded in the past like Shattenkirk, who is getting teams a first-round pick. And if you've looked at some of the acquisition costs for guys like Jake Muzzin and whatever, these guys are fetching prospects and high picks. So before we go out there and say, oh, that's it, the Leafs, we screwed up. The Leafs have time to make a pretty significant move. And personally, I like Tyson Barrie as a person. I obviously haven't met him like that, but I like him in terms of what he's brought to this team. He seems like a really nice guy. you know, he looks good under Sheldon Keefe. He looks better at least. And offensively, he's dynamite. And honestly, he would already be at 40-plus points right now if Babcock wasn't holding him back. You move Tyson Barrie, you do get a defensive defenseman back, especially if you're looking at another playoff team and they go, okay, this trade makes sense because we need offense and you need defense. Let's just make this trade. So I don't know what you guys are thinking about that, but I just had to talk about this because it's been weighing on my mind for a long time. That trade was an absolute home run, and I mean, listen, it doesn't look that great right now. Like, I'm not super biased. Like, I would have rather have made a trade with Nazem Kadri that might have been better suited. But you have to think the Leafs were put in a position where they needed to upgrade, and Babcock was stubborn, saying that he would rather play Cody Ceci more than Tyson Barrie. It doesn't make any sense. It never did, never will. We'll never know why he did it. Again, he also never played Justin Holl, and look how good Justin Holl is this year. So, I don't know. What you guys think? Is Tyson Barrie going to get moved? Is that even a possibility? If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. Let's get to 7,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys as always, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.